Okay, well, I just wanted to spend a couple of minutes and do some kind of a brief introductory video on our course, Management 495, the Global Management Seminar. And I'll pull up the syllabus and we'll go over some of the things and just give us some perspective. And while I'm using this for this particular semester, most of this will be pretty much the same going forward because I, recycle some of my videos and I just, go ahead and use them. So in any event, when we start to talk a little bit about the Global Management Seminar, basically we're talking about, because it's kind of a summative course, this is the end of the road for our learning in this area. And so we're dealing a little bit with global business, global management, supply chain, global finance, the global economy, HR, sales, marketing, all the different things that we played with over the previous semesters. Now, this course is done asynchronously, which is to say non-synchronous online, which means that even though I will likely be running some voluntary Zoom classes, they are exactly that, voluntary Zoom sessions. If there's a need, you can always reach out to me in email and we can set up a private Zoom and go over whatever we need to go over. That pretty much is, standard fare. The textbook has been pre-selected for you by the university, and it's the McGraw-Hill 12th edition of International Management by Jonathan, last name D-O-H, Jonathan Doe. It's a good source of reference. So I've linked the textbook to the course. As far as keeping it, opting out, that's entirely up to you. We will not be using the textbook to go through chapter by chapter, questions at the end, etc. We're not using it for that. We're using it as a source of information and reference only, so you make whatever decision you need to make. But if you do decide to opt out of it, usually you have a very limited window of opportunity, typically a week, something like that. You would probably want to contact the registrar's office or there used to be a facility for Barnes and Noble here on campus, so you use that source. But that's the gentleman's name was Errol Narvaez, and it was ENARVAEZ at bncollege.com, and that's on page 2 of the syllabus. I heard that he may have disassociated himself with this, so you may end up talking to the registrar's office. You can go through most of the important points on the syllabus, and again, this stuff here. So keeping in mind that the school's policy is that for business courses, there is a requirement for a grade of C or better. And of course, we don't tolerate plagiarism. Academic integrity is important to us. So keep those kinds of things in mind. And do note that, we will make adjustments to the syllabus as we go forward. And most of the changes that I might make, I do in whole or in part without further notice. The due date for deliverables. And I've made a habit of doing this for most of my courses. Due date's the end of this semester. I could give you a whole bunch of artificial due dates. Well, it's due the second Thursday of the semester, and I don't accept late work. That's nonsense. We all have lives and many things that we're doing. So at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is just make it palatable and tolerable And so as a result, I would prefer that your work is, done, and the few submissions that you have, I would prefer that those are taken care of sooner rather than later. But invariably, there's the question, Professor, what's the due date? Well, the due date is the last day of classes in the semester. This will apply to pretty much everything. You can read on page 2, description of the course, learning objectives, all of this. And then we go on to some of the learning outcomes. And these are specific areas that I think are important for us to take away. And so on page 3 of the syllabus, you'll note with great interest and anticipation that we'll be dealing with many of the major concepts and principles that belie global management, kind of foundational stuff. But for example, we use NPV analysis. We remember that from finance, I'm sure. But we use NPV analysis, marginal analysis, and other tools. I'm not a big fan of Bloom's taxonomy. There are so many other taxonomies available, but higher ed seems to have latched on to this one. So in terms of Bloom's, remembering is a big piece of what we're doing, understanding is a big piece of what we're doing, applying, analyzing, so on and so forth. But topically, we're going to be dealing initially with, things like NPV, marginal analysis, and so forth. We're very interested in a strategic advantage profile and environmental threats and opportunities profile, because we know that environmental elements are a big factor in terms of global business, global management, pretty much global anything. And what are these environmental factors? Well, if you've had me for other classes, you already understand that economics is a big one, the political environment, the legal environment, the regulatory environment, the tax environment, the technological, you get the idea. All of these things. And in terms of environment, those are the things that we operate in, the environment which we operate. Excuse me, still nursing a bit of a cold. And those are the things that are not directly controllable by us much of the time. Whereas strategic advantage profile, these kinds of things are within our purview to control. That's the decision making at the macro level that we make as a firm and so forth. We're going to rely in terms of ethics and some of the responsibilities associated with management on DeGeorge a little bit. One of the videos that we will be putting up and viewing is this Nike swoosh video, and it has to do with, we're all familiar with Nike, but some of their operations, for example, in Indonesia, and exactly what the conditions are like, so on and so forth. So, we get to wrestle a little bit with that. Keep in mind, it's not a sociology course. This is not a psychology course. So we're not interested in those constructs as much as we are business. We're also very interested and we'll be relying very heavily on something called the business judgment rule, and we'll be putting some more meat on the bones there. Some of the cases we'll be dealing with, the Marubeni case is one. We will be dealing with cultural issues between Hofstede and Dureski, and so that plays in. We'll also be dealing with organizational culture, diversity of thought and philosophy, and things like this. So Epictetus, grassroots leadership comes into play. And then, of course, when we start to talk about trade policy and current accounts balance and the capital account, we're relying on Michael Moffat and his multinational finance textbook and others. No, you don't have to buy it. It's just a source of reference. But we're very much interested in these things, the current accounts balance and so forth. We will be looking at intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. We'll also be looking at economic integration that has occurred, certainly with what we refer to openly now as the EU, the European Union, and we'll look a little bit historically at that. We'll be looking at USMCA a little bit, which was previously NAFTA, and we'll get a lot of information from usitc.gov, and we'll put some meat on the bones with that as well. And then we'll also be looking at Hofstede and Dureski in terms of the Marubeni case, when we talk about the invariable conflict between law and culture. As we go forward, expectations, you can read through this. And as far as midterms, final deliverables, and so forth, well, simply put, you will be participating in the discussion board posts. Those posts should be objective, which is to say that I'm not really interested in your opinion. So if we post something up there for discussion, and you're tempted to begin with something like, well, in my opinion, I feel as though, that's getting you absolutely nowhere. The exception would be if you have a hidden PhD in the field that we're not aware of, then that might make you an expert in the field, and then we would rely on what you have to say. Otherwise, you're required to basically cite and reference. I refer to it kind of generically as sourcing. Sourcing is very important, and we're into very much the idea of analytical solutions and what some refer to as analytical thinking. I think the phrase critical thinking has been worn out, so that's not something that we would rely on a whole lot, as much as we would be relying on analytical thinking, analysis, the idea of analyzing. So again, be prepared to participate. Avoid the temptation to cut and paste, because that's not really going to help your cause a lot, and so forth. As far as midterm, actually going to be, well, point of view, of course, relatively simple in the sense that what we will do is likely take a specific discussion board area or entry, and I'll share with our group which one this will be, and we will do some in-depth conversing. Uh, there's no such word, but some use the word conversate. Well, there's no such word, so don't use that word, but we will converse vis-a-vis the discussion board about some specific area or topic. And as we get closer, I'll let you know which one. So we'll want to be able to do some in-depth work there. That's the midterm. As far as final deliverable, it's going to be an in-depth analysis, and we'll speak to that in another few pages. While there is the possibility I may allow a specific topical area from some of the other posted materials, it's more likely going to be a deep dive in a very specific area. Now, your choices as far as delivery for that include these. You can write a paper for those that prefer to write. And writing a paper, you're probably looking at 7 to 10 pages of the body of the work, but done APA 7th, which is to say cover page and all the things that go with an APA 7th document, fully cited and referenced. If we don't like to write, we can also choose to do a PowerPoint. Only if we do PowerPoint, again, it's going to be 7 to 10 slides or slightly more if it takes you more to do something in depth. And you're going to end up using notes view because we know that a PowerPoint slide is really just for bullet points. And so we get to elaborate in the notes view, and that's what you would submit. Third option, you can do something similar to what we're doing here. You can create your own YouTube video. You can, as long as you come up with an MP4 file, you can do your own version of a Joe Rogan blog on a topic, or specifically the topic we're likely to talk about. And you're probably going to end up with about 10 minutes worth of, not exactly freestyle and so forth, but 10 minutes of, content using that. So you'll be graded on the analysis of case 1, which is going to be the Marubeni case, and we'll talk more about that. Excuse me. Second case is TBA at this point. There are several to choose from. I'll make a decision soon. Discussion board, we know we have to participate in. And then the final deliverable is going to be sustainability. So business sustainability, but sustainability against the backdrop of the business judgment rule. And if we start to look at our schedule, it's roughly, and we'll somewhat work through this. And if we get delayed on something, then we'll, of course, push it back down toward the end of the semester. But you'll get a sense of where we are. Some of the readings where we're going to be doing most of our stuff, discussion board postings. The competency we're after, obviously, is analytical thinking. Additional notes. Final day for ad drop is somewhere here. Spring recess is somewhere there. Case analysis one, ideally, would be due March 1st. But as I said, you have till the end of the semester to submit it. I would prefer sooner rather than later. Anyway, you get the perspective on what we're going to be doing from that schedule. Some general baloney here and so forth. But this is where I wanted to go with this. So our final deliverable. Obviously, this will be sent to me through my NJCU email. The due date is May 3rd on this. No late papers accepted, no Google Doc, links, any of this kind of stuff. You're sending it to me as an attachment, whether it's an MP4 file, whether it's a PowerPoint file, whether it's a Word document. And the reference for underlying research is a Harvard Business Review article, and it's referenced over here from 2022. And, it's really suggested as how sustainability efforts fall apart. Well, again, this is not a social justice course, it's a business course. So our title, listed here as your title, for your final deliverable is The Decline of Corporate Sustainability in a World of the Business Judgment Rule, a comprehensive analysis of the purpose of the firm. Because what we'll find in a lot of this very abstract, agenda-driven sustainability stuff is that what is proposed as we'll call it for now pie in the sky nonsense is exactly that. Some of the stuff that is proposed under the guise of corporate sustainability has to do with a lot of agenda-driven stuff that is not going to get you hired at JP Morgan Chase, not going to get you hired at Goldman, not going to get you hired on Wall Street and so forth, despite what some of the public, the PR stuff that the firms put out. Remember, in this brand of capitalism, I say that with great specificity, because capitalism is not one thing. In this brand of capitalism, there is a heavy reliance on something called the business judgment rule. Now, most of the time, and there are some briefings, brief papers, brief references in the contents section that might give you the perspective that, well, the business judgment rule really relieves the boards of directors of a great amount of liability. Well, it really doesn't. And there's an entire book the size of a New York City phone book on specifically the business judgment rule. And we'll be taking some things from that and sharing that. But basically, the first thing we have to wrestle with is analyzing in this environment, Western capitalism, the for-profit arena, the purpose of the firm. What factors contribute to the deteriorating state of corporate sustainability? Through an in-depth analysis of the business judgment rule, including Michael Moffat's breakdown of the types of capitalism, including the economic, the environmental, and social factors, we have to provide a comprehensive understanding of why companies, firms, sustainability efforts are faltering. Why doesn't it work? And we'll put some meat on the bones during the course of the semester, but this is what you're going to be wrestling. So we go through this, and you can look at this in terms of the different components of your final deliverable. But corporate sustainability, blah, blah, blah. Some of the economic pressures, these are the specific areas you would incorporate. Lack of a clear strategy, regulatory challenges, supply chain, blah, 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 all the way down that can follow this, ultimately leading to a conclusion. So again, paper format would be something like this. And again, 7 pages, no more than 10 should cover it, especially if it's well written. APA 7th, append graphs, charts, things that you feel are of value, and so forth. And if you choose not to do the paper, and let me stop share. If you choose not to do the paper, again, you have the ability to do the PowerPoint in Notes View, or you have the ability to do your own blog, your own MP4, your own video. And I've been doing that for several semesters. But look, all you guys today, this is your thing. This is your tool. And you guys are so smart, so technically savvy that why wouldn't we do this? Why would I have you write a paper, which is something that I would have done 50 years ago? Why would I have you do that if there are other ways to present? But that's up to you. Some of you like to write. You like to write, do a paper. You prefer not to do a paper, do a PowerPoint. You feel that PowerPoint is as dated as I feel it is, do something with an MP4. So that's just a brief overview of where we're going to be going and what we're going to be doing. So breathe. You will notice there aren't very many deliverables. You have a couple of cases to do, a couple to mean two. Mater Bene is one of them. You have discussion board postings, and you're just going to have to do a little bit of digging and a little bit of reading there, because we're not loading our double-barrel BS gun and just putting, well, I feel this and so feels that, and fallacy of shoulds, they should have done. We're just not going to waste our time with that nonsense. As far as the final deliverable, topic chosen, unlikely to change. So I would start to warm up to the idea of this being the topic. And we will be spending quite a bit of time on the business judgment rule. And we as a euphemism for you, which is to say, excuse me, that you're going to be doing a lot of digging on the business judgment rule. And I'm going to be pointing you in a direction of a couple of things. And like I say, we have a very large the business judgment rule is rather lengthy and rather precise, but we're going to look at corporate sustainability in the context of the business judgment, because there are obviously conflicts and so forth. And so we'll expand on that a little bit. So with that, that's just a general introduction. It should be a fun semester. Again, no real hard until we get basically to May, no real hard deliverable dates, due dates. Really, discussion board, 2 postings, and a final deliverable. So read a little bit, look at the contents section. We'll add some meat to the bones. We can meet on voluntary Zooms. I'll post a schedule. Probably won't start, assuming I survive this. Probably won't start until February at some point. We're not going to rush in. Classes start the middle of January. Not going to rush into voluntary Zoom meetings until February. But email me with any concerns, and we'll chat soon. Have a great day.